Hello, it's Trish again with another quick make. I just love making anything that's quick and simple, doesn't take too much fabric. So I thought I'd show you a little drawstring pouch that I made. It's quite cute, isn't it? Fully lined, no raw edges, and doesn't take much fabric. Great for bazaars, your craft stalls, little presents, Christmas presents, you know, something small in there, a bit of jewellery that you may have made, whatever you like really, chocolates. So I thought I'd show you how to make it. Now, I saw a picture of something similar on one of the internet sites, one of the websites, and I thought, oh, I could make that. So I got myself a piece of paper and folded it and just cut myself a shape, knowing by folding the paper that I would be able to get a symmetrical shape. So that was the shape. It wasn't originally that, I just trimmed it to what I felt was what I wanted. And then, as you can see, I've just drawn a line, there's the centre line, I've just drawn a line about an inch further across so that I could cut and have the two different pieces of fabric like this. So I've got one larger piece and one smaller piece. So I cut myself two pieces for the front and the back of the bigger size and two for the smaller. And then for the channel, and this is a lovely easy way of making a channel easily and neatly, I just cut myself a 2-inch wide, two pieces of fabric, one for each side channel, exactly the same size as the top of my drawstring pouch. So here I have my two pieces. I've got the larger in the spotty and the smaller in the gingham. I have a small piece of cotton lace. You could do embroidery stitches, you could put ribbon, but I just thought that was an additional extra to it. And then my two drawstring channels, which I have already pressed in half because that's how big they will be, and I've also folded and neatened the edge, so I've folded this over by about 1/8 of an inch and I've folded it over twice so it's nice and neat. So I've got those two ready done. So the first thing I'm going to do is, with my little bit of lace, I'm just going to pop it onto the front of the small piece, and I'm going to put it, for ease, I'm going to put it towards the top, because on the other side I've already stitched a piece at the bottom, so it's a longer piece. Just makes it easier and you don't have to think about matching up the lace, the back and the front. So I'm going to, as I say, pop a little bit higher, and I'm just going to stitch along the top of the lace just to hold that in place. So just an ordinary straight stitch across there, and then I'm just going to neaten that, just trim that off the edge so that that's nice and neat. Let's just drop that down a little bit. And then I'm going to pop right sides together. So I'm going to place that piece on so and line those straight edges up, and I'm just going to do about 1/4 of an inch seam. Now, I haven't already moved my foot to the 1/4 of an inch seam. Let's stitch down there. Okay, so that's nice and simple. And then, oh goodness, just poke my finger with my scissors and got blood on there, but never mind, that's going to be hidden. So then I'm going to pop that seam with both of the edges together. I'm just going to press that to the side and top stitch down there, just probably 1/8 of an inch or so in. But here you could also do an embroidery stitch down there just to make it a little bit prettier. So I've done that, just clipped my seams. Now at this point, as I've already done this one, the front and the back, I now need to make a lining. Now, as you can imagine, the reason I didn't say to cut lining now was because I'm now going to use my finished front and back as a template, and let me just show you against here. You'll be able to see my original template. My piece is now smaller than the template, so using this as the template, I'm going to cut myself 2 lining pieces, which I have cut here already, which will then match with the pieces I've already done. So I'm going to pop with these. We'll do the lining pieces first with right sides together. Now because I need to turn, I'm going to stitch around the curved edge, but I am going to leave a gap. I'm going to leave it in the bottom here where there's a straight edge. So again, with a 1/4 inch seam, I'm just going to stitch around here, around that curve, just dragging it around. And where I'm stopping and starting, leaving a gap, I'm just going to reverse. So I'm just going to move it without cutting the threads to the other side, back stitch a little, and come back around the corner, keeping those edges nicely lined and up to the top. I'm just going to clip that off, and then I'll do exactly the same with my blood-stained front. I just have to wash this afterwards. It's a good job it's fabric and easily washable. So I'm going to line up the raw edges again, and this time I'm going to go all the way around. So I'm still keeping my edges nicely aligned and not leaving a gap. I'm going to go the whole way around that curved edge. Now I actually think normally with curved seams I would clip into them so that they press nicely, so that they give a nice curved edge, but on this occasion I don't think it's really crucial. So I'm going to turn that to the right side, and I like to push my finger into those seams, and that's come out pretty well, like so. So I'm just going to clip the threads for my turning. Now at this point, this is where I'm going to take my 2 channels, and I'm folding them with the wrong sides together, and then I'm going to place them along that top raw edge, and I'm going to center them along there. Now you should make sure that the seam is actually, or the channel is away from the seam, because we don't want it to get caught into the seam. So I am going to just pin those in place, because it just helps to hold it all together when we come to stitching around. So I pop a pin in the middle, and then when I come to this side, I'm just making sure that that is about the same size, same distance from the seam as on the other side. I just have to move that over just a little bit, just a little bit here, just to pull that over. As I say, making sure it's not overlapping at the side seam. And I'll take my other one here, and I'm going to pop that. And if they're the same size, which they ought to be, it just means that they will match up nicely and you won't have any problem. You can just take it across to the side there, and you know it's not going to get caught in the side seam. I'm just trying to find myself a pin or two and pin it. It's a good idea. You probably know by now I'm not that much of a pinner, but on this occasion it's a good idea just to hold everything in place. So I've got my right side showing here, and my right sides of the lining are inside, which is how I want it to be. And by then popping the outer into the lining piece, this means that I have got right sides together. And as you probably know, on nearly every occasion it's right sides together that we place our fabric. There is the odd exception, but this is one of those where it's the same as. So I'm just going to remove those pins and replace them so that I'm going through all those layers, and then I'm holding that channel exactly in place, and I'm just lining up both sides. I'm lining the seams up, and then I know that should fit perfectly. Replace those pins, and then I'm holding all the layers together. Just make sure that seam is there. Pop that pin in and pop that one in through all the layers. Now I'm going to stitch the whole way around that top edge. So I very rarely start at the sides or in the corner. I'm going to start along. You probably won't be able to see this very well, but I'm just going to start on this edge, in the middle of the top edge, and I'm going to take my pins out as I go. I'm actually going to put my needle down so that every time I stop and start, the needle is in the down position. Now it is quite a small hole at the top. It's probably 4 or 5 inches across. If you use this exact same technique, you could actually make any sized drawstring pouch that you want to. And the bigger the opening at the top, the easier it is to get the machine, but it's not difficult. And I'm just following that outer edge, coming around. We're nearly at the other side seam, just taking my pin out as I approach it, and when I come to where I started, I'm just going to go over a few stitches so it holds it firmly. Let's just take that out there, trim a few of these threads off. Looks a little bit messy, but let's get rid of those. It's all going to be on the inside, but it's good to be neat as we go. Now I'm going to the bottom where my gap is, and then I'm going to just pull that through like so, and then hopefully you'll see there's one channel and there's two. So before I push the lining back into the outer, all I'm going to do is I'm going to close that gap, and the easiest way there is I hold either side of the gap, push my fingers, push that little bit in, line it up, finger press across there. I would, if I was near an iron, I'd go to that, and then I'm just going to stitch across there. I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch away, and I'll reverse as I start, and I'm just lining those folded edges nice and neatly, and come up perhaps a little bit further than the gap, and then also make sure that gap is totally closed. Trim those bits off because we don't want anything going through there. But yeah, so that's nicely closed. So I can now push the lining into the outer, push that nicely down. There we go. And I would definitely iron this afterwards, but that's looking rather sweet. Love the colours of this. It's like a lavender colour. Pop a little bit of lavender in there for a nice